Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the Scottish text questions. Now, in terms of the questions themselves, what we can do is we can divide the question types into sort of two different parts or two different sections. Okay, so when it comes to the Scottish text exam, what you have, all right, is you have two different sections or parts in terms of the way the questions are laid out. So what you have is you have the three questions, okay, or four questions which talk about the extract. So in case you haven't seen this before, what I'll do is I'll just give you sort of a rundown of what this what I mean. So in terms of the sort of exam itself, okay, the way it looks is you have an extract, okay, which is a piece of text. So it could be like an extract from the play, part of the play, part of the novel, part of the short story, or it could be an entire poem. And then what you have is you have questions on that extract, okay? And normally these will be three questions at higher, and I believe four questions. Yep, four questions at National 5. Okay, but again, it looks the same. You have text, okay, an extract, and then you have three or four questions on that extract. The extract is not very long, usually just a page or so. And if it's a poem, it will only have the full poem if it's quite a short poem. If it's a long poem, again, it will only be sort of a page or so of that poem. Okay, now again, as I said, you have the extract, okay, piece of the text, and then you have a number of questions on that extract, three or four questions on that extract. Okay, now these questions, as you can see here, these questions are all answered using RUAE skills. Okay, all of these questions are answered using RUAE skills. So again, you see by referring to two examples, analyze how language is used to create humor. So word choice, how does word choice create humor? So this is essentially a tone question. You could use that, a humorous tone, or you could just use word choice. How is the word choice used to make this to show that something is funny? You get the point. And then the second part, okay, so the first sort of half, yeah, you can think about it that way. The first half, the first 10 marks, okay, come from as I said, the questions on the extract. That's the first half, the first 10 marks. The second half, okay, the second 10 marks come from what is called the comparison question, or at National 5, it's called the 8-mark question. At higher, it's called the 10-mark question. It's called that because that's how many that tells you how many marks it is worth. Okay, so this is higher. You see it's 10, that's 10 marks. And then you see at National 5, it's 8 marks. Okay, right there, 8 marks. And then you have 4 is 8, and 10 is 12. Okay, so again, the first sort of half of the marks come from the questions on the text on the extract. The second half of the marks, the second 10 or 8, come from the questions that come from this final question, which is called the 8-mark at Nat 5 and the 10-mark at higher. And this question, again, the reason I called it a comparison question is because it always asks you to compare between the text in some kind of way. I'm not going to go into sort of this question right now. I'm going to have a video on that specifically. We're going to go into what it looks like, how to structure the answer, and so on and so forth. What we're going to do today is we're going to focus our attention on the first half, these first couple of questions, the questions that are on the extract. Okay. Now, when it comes to the questions on the extract, what you need to know, okay, is again, first and foremost, most important thing is if you understand RUAE, you already know how to do the questions. Okay, so that's the main thing that you need to know. Now, in terms of what the questions can ask you, or what, in terms of the types of questions that you could get, i.e., what their topic is going to be, the focus is going to be, there are a number of different sort of focuses, okay, that have, or foci that have come throughout the year, focuses that have come throughout the years. And what I've done is I've collected them into a document. And what I'll do is, in the end of, in the last Scottish text section uh, step, I'm gonna put these attachments, okay, to these documents so you can look at them and use them to practice. So what I have here is I have all of the Scottish text questions, all of them from 2017 down to 2019, okay? And these are questions on drama, poetry, prose, uh, questions on all of them, okay? So you can see every question type here, uh, all of them. And then what I have here is I have the questions. This is for prose, but it matches. It's not just in terms the categories. Okay, the labeling matches also poetry and drama also. I just put it in this prose one just to make things a bit easy. So in terms of the categorization, the type of question that you could get, yeah, what you could be asked about is as follows. Number one, you could be asked an atmosphere question. How, and it's usually worded something like, analyze the language and analyze how the writer uses language to create some kind of atmosphere, like an unsettling atmosphere, sinister atmosphere, impending storm, nostalgic mood. It basically just means, how does the writer, okay, how do they make the writing sound a certain way? Or how do they make the place sound, give the place a certain feel? That's another way of putting it. Like an unsettling atmosphere means there's something disturbing going on. There's something related to horror going on. There's something related to something supernatural going on. How does the writer create that sort of feeling? Okay, and again, when you're doing this, you can analyze tone, or you would analyze word choice. Those would be my recommendations. For tone, you would be looking at things like the writer creates the tone of fear. You'd look out for that. For word choice, you'd look for those words which are connected to horror in some way, which are connected to scary things in some way. This could also be happy atmosphere, and so on and so forth. It's about the feel of the writing. It's about how does the place feel, how does the story feel, and how does the writer create that. Analyzing it again based on either word choice or tone. Excuse me. Now, the next thing is you could be asked about characters, okay? You could be asked about the relationship between two characters. For example, you could be asked on the Cone Gatherers about the relationship between Callum and Neil, the relationship between two characters. How does the language, the dialogue, whatever, what does that tell you about the relationship? Again, analyze it with word choice. The next you could get would be about uh what the character something about the character themselves, like the role the character has, i.e., what do they do in the text, um, why they're important, uh, what tell us about their personality, about their aspect. Basically, asking you to break down the character in some way. You could be asked about that, and then you could be asked also another sort of form of this would be sort of impression questions, which would be, how does the writer make the character sound like a good person? How does the writer make the character sound like a bad person? And so on and so forth. Basically, you could combine all of these into questions on the character. Okay, so either about the relationships between characters, the character themselves, um, and the first type of question again was atmosphere question about how the writing sort of feels, what kind of vibe it gives you. That would be like an informal way of telling you. Then the final thing, I believe, okay, yes, almost final. So sort of almost final thing. You could get a question on setting. So this is asking you about the location where the story takes place, about the story world, what is it like, uh, what kind of features does it have, analyze it again. All of this is analyzed for the most part using either word choice or in your own words. Okay, and Yes. Another type of question you could get would be a sense of question and sense of tension. Again, this is sort of similar to the atmosphere question. It's just about how does the story feel? How does the writing feel? Same thing as I explained sort of before. So those are the sort of main question types. You can say that there's sort of four main question or three main question types. One is the sort of feel of the text, which is atmosphere or sense of. Two is a character question, which is about what are the characters like? What's the personality like? What are the relationships like? What's their role in the text? All those type of questions. And then finally, you could get a setting question. What is the story world like? What kind of features does it have? So on and so forth. Now, the important thing to know, okay, is use this when you are analyzing your text on in class in your lessons. Use this, okay, when you're studying the text. Every text, every text features a number of things. Uh, three of these things I just mentioned to you. Okay, one is character, the other is setting, and tied to the setting is a sort of feel. The other two things which you need to understand that every text has is the sort of story itself. And then there's other things also, but I'm not going to get into them now, the narrative structure, etc., etc. But I'm not going to get into that right now because it's not important. All you need to know, okay, all you need to know is when you're studying your text, your Scottish text, look at character, think about the story, and then if there's a setting, there's always a setting. So think about the story, think about the character, think about the setting, and then look at the quotes related to those three sections, and then practice your RUAE skills in analyzing those quotes. Now, to help you to do that, what I'm going to do, okay, what I'm going to do with you is I'm going to analyze one or two, I'm going to do one or two sort of questions with you, okay? And what I'll do is we'll do them right now together, just to show you again, sort of, uh, just to show you that you can, that it is mainly sort of RUAE skills that are used when doing this. Okay, so we're gonna have a look. Yeah, so we're gonna have a look at this question here, just because I can remember, I've got a quote memorized for it. Okay, so you have a quote here, a question here, sorry, by referring to at least two examples, analyze how the poet's use of language conveys a sense of both the past and present. Now, the quote that I'm going to use comes from Duffy, from the poem Originally, okay, which is a very commonly used poem, many classrooms. So the quote is going to be oops, so you can do this along with me. All childhood is an immigration. That's the quote. Okay, now you can imagine I would have taken this from the extract. So the whole poem would have been up here, and I would have taken this one out. Sense of both past and present. Okay, and it says language, so I'm going to use word choice. Okay, and we'll just imagine that this is a 2-mark question. Probably it's going to be a 4-mark, but we'll just say 2-mark just to make things a bit simple. So we'll take the sort of, we'll take the most obvious word here, which is immigration. Okay, and then we're just going to talk about how this talks about past and present. Okay, immigration. This relates to journey, to traveling from one place. So basic word choice, yeah, basic word choice. To another, and to new destinations. This suggests the speaker has left behind their past and has traveled to the new destination of their present. Okay, now all this means, okay, and this is going to be in the video if you go to the end of the course, okay. This is going to be in the video on Originally. All this means basically is the speaker has gone from where they used to live to where they now live. That's it. This suggests speaker has left behind their past and has traveled to the new destination of their present. That's it. Now, if I wanted to make sure I got the mark, I could just say, okay, I'll just mention this, but you don't have to. I've already got one mark there. This represents their journey from childhood to adulthood. I wanted to just make it very clear, very, very clear, and to make sure I get the mark, I could just add that. Okay, it's not necessary. This is enough. Okay. Anyway, so there is sort of one mark. You can see very clearly the um the answer, and you can see how it's word choice that I used. Just like if this was an RUAE question, it's exactly the same. Okay, so take a note of this. Okay, and then use the text, okay, the document to practice yourself with your own text. And what I'm going to do in the next video is I'm going to show you exactly how to practice breaking down your text or text. I'm going to teach you exactly the method and the strategy that you can use and that you should use to make sure that you fully understand your text and you practice your skills at the same time. Okay.